Hi there and welcome back. So before we get into the body of this video, I thought I would explain why my voice sounds so croaky and off today. I'm just coming out the back of a really nasty chest infection that I caught just at the tail end of my holiday. So yeah, it's not been fun, but I feel well enough to make a video, and I will cut out all the coughing and spluttering, so don't need to worry about anything gross like that. So when I was on holiday and just after I got back, a couple of stories caught my eye, both of which sort of revolving around the idea of body positivity and fat acceptance. The first story was about Tess Holliday's cover in Cosmo. Tess Holliday, from my understanding, is a plus-size model who advocates for fat acceptance and body positivity. She, as I already said, was on the cover of Cosmo, and she also had a few interviews published in Cosmo as well, alongside that front cover. There wasn't, and still isn't, very much I want to say about that story in particular. Tess Holliday says a lot of things that I do disagree with, but when it comes to body positivity and fat acceptance, there are also a lot of things I do agree with, up to a point. So when I initially saw this story, it didn't really bother me. To be entirely frank, I'm not too arsed who's on the cover of Cosmo, and I'm happy enough seeing people who are comfortable in their own skin and trying to maybe subvert the current beauty standards that we have at the moment. I didn't really have very much to say about this story, and I was just going to leave it as is, let other people talk about it the way they already had. However, when I got back home and I was looking for something to talk about, I saw another story that was very closely related to this idea of fat acceptance. So a couple of days ago, a fashion retailer called Revolve decided to pull a line of sweatshirts and t-shirts that they were going to be producing because of public backlash. On these t-shirts they had quotes that said things like, "Being fat is not beautiful, it is an excuse." So the initial reaction to this line of clothing was that it was making fun of people who were overweight. However, after the outcry, it came out that the retailer had been in collaboration with various activists and celebrities, lifting troll comments from the internet and putting them on clothing essentially to satirize these people, and to show that the things that they were saying were horrible and that they shouldn't be taken seriously. Now, if I'm honest, actually, I don't see this as a particularly bad idea. However, with these quotes being so abstract and it not being very clear that these are quotes and that these are not meant to be taken seriously, I can understand why people would get upset. If you saw somebody walking around with a t-shirt that said "being fat is not beautiful, it's an excuse," out of context, that would probably annoy some people, and they would probably think of that as being insulting. I think if some more work had been done on these articles of clothing, they could have been quite interesting. I'm not saying that they would have necessarily been successful, but at least from an activist standpoint, I suppose they would have been something interesting, and it would have posed an interesting discussion if we'd been allowed to have the discussion before people got outraged. So why do I bring up both of these topics? Now, the two stories are separate from each other. Tess Holliday had nothing to do with this line of clothing, and this line of clothing had nothing to do with Tess Holliday's appearance on the cover of Cosmo. What these two stories do, however, have in common is the theme of fat acceptance and body positivity. Now, body positivity is a very interesting topic, and it's something that I'm quite conflicted about. I am completely behind the idea of people being comfortable in their own skin, happy with the way they are, and trying to encourage other people to not be abusive towards people who are overweight, and trying to subvert certain beauty norms and beauty standards. I do think there's a lot of pressure put on both men and women to present themselves in a certain type of way when in public in order to look beautiful and attractive to the opposite sex or the same sex or whoever it is that they're trying to appeal to. There's also a lot in the body positivity movement about educating people on the fact that losing weight isn't always as simple as just going out to the gym and eating healthier. There are a lot of people out there who are either overweight or underweight because of eating disorders that they have, because of compulsive disorders that they have. However, there are certain facets of the body positivity movement and the fat acceptance movement that I do have issues with. And Tess Holliday is actually a good exemplar of some of the issues I do have. There are a lot of people in the body positivity movement that outright deny the effects that being either overweight or underweight can have on your body. They completely deny the fact that being overweight can encourage and increase the chances of you getting various types of cancer, heart diseases, and bowel problems. I've seen many people in the fat acceptance movement attack doctors and physicians who will bring up the fact that they are overweight as a potential cause for the health issues that they're suffering from. And there are also a lot of people in the body positivity movement that just preach misinformation about being healthy and how to be healthy and the correlations between being overweight and being healthy. Now, as someone who has health issues myself related to my bad habits, I do have issues with a lot of this stuff. Now, as some of you may know, for the last 1.5 to 2 years, I've been a really, really heavy smoker. It's probably a big part of the reason that I caught this chest infection in the first place. It's part of the reason that I struggle to exercise to the same degree that I used to, and I am no longer as fit as I used to. The fact that I smoke is something that, even if I was to quit in the next couple of months, which is what I intend to do, I'm still going to be haunted in later life by this poor decision that I've made. And I do take responsibility for that. There isn't a smokers acceptance movement, and there shouldn't be. I totally empathise with people in the fat acceptance movement who say that they receive criticism and insult based on the fact that they're overweight. I've had a lot of people criticise me and give me insult because I smoke. But as annoying as that is, and as unhelpful as that is in terms of making me quit or improving my health, I do understand that there is a shade of truth in some of the things these people are saying. Now, I do think this is a problem within the body positivity movement. Now, I'm not saying that this is encompassed by the entire group, and I'm not saying that everybody who is within the body positivity movement exhibits these behaviours or says these sorts of things. However, I do think there should be a discussion within the body positivity movement as to whether some of the things that they preach are actually good for people. I completely understand that it can be difficult to receive criticism when it comes to various health issues. I understand that a lot of these issues related to health aren't as simple as just putting down a cheeseburger or a cigarette and picking up a salad or going out for a run. A lot of these things can be related to addiction or to mental health issues. So yes, I completely empathise with that. But denying the fact that these things have very negative effects on your health isn't helpful for anybody else. And if people in the body positivity movement were really honest with themselves, they shouldn't be encouraging people to be overweight. They should be telling people not to hate themselves for it. They should be telling people not to listen to people who are abusive to them for it. They shouldn't be encouraging people to accept their obesity, but instead to beat it. That's why I prefer the idea of a body positivity movement rather than a fat acceptance movement. There's nothing wrong with encouraging people to be comfortable in their own skin and to try and subvert certain beauty standards that we currently have. But just telling people that, well, you're overweight and you should just stay overweight and be happy about it, without telling them the fact that, well, that can shorten their life and it causes permanent damage. Even if you are to lose weight, you're still going to be haunted by some of the decisions you've made in your past. Believe me, that's something I know way too well. And I've seen a lot of people arguing that Tess Holliday being on the front cover of Cosmo encourages people to be overweight. And I don't think her being on the cover alone encourages it, but maybe some of the things that she says and some of the rhetoric that she espouses does encourage people to be overweight. I'm happy to see plus-sized models on the covers of various magazines. That alone doesn't bother me, but it depends on the rhetoric these people are espousing. If these people are just saying that I'm overweight and I'm comfortable with it, and perhaps there are people out there who will never be able to lose the weight, and trying to help them just be happy in their own skin, there's nothing wrong with that. But to preach the idea that being overweight has no effects on your health, or that you shouldn't at least try to lose weight, or you shouldn't at least try to fix the things that are causing damage to your body, that's something I can't stand by. Now, this is a topic I could talk about for ages and ages, and I think there's a lot to be discussed. I don't think it's as simple as people in the fat acceptance movement should just shut up, or that people in the fat acceptance movement should just be listened to. I think there needs to be an honest discussion within the body positivity movement about their goals, what they're trying to achieve, and the type of rhetoric that they espouse, and what parts of the movement are positive and what parts are negative. Because believe me, there are positives and there are negatives. I'm not one of these people that's going to come out and say that I hate the body positivity movement. There are a lot of people out there who would come down very harshly on the body positivity movement. There are also a lot of people who would refuse to criticise them at all. However, personally, I do see the positives in this movement. I do see why it exists. And I do actually agree with some of the things I see them trying to do. Now, I know I've not talked too much about the two stories I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I more wanted to use them as a catalyst so that I could discuss body positivity and fat acceptance in a more general way. I do have opinions about both of these stories, but they're not particularly controversial or really anything that special. However, if you are interested in hearing about them, then leave me a comment down below and I can elaborate more. I will also leave a couple of articles in the description that will go into depth about both stories, so if you are interested in that, then have a look down below and see what you think. Now before I go, I have a little bit of shilling that I'd like to get out of the way. So when I was away on holiday, despite not being able to upload like I'd planned, I did do a few bits and bobs in relation to the channel. One of these things was I set up a small Instagram account, which will be in the description below along with everything else. Now on this Instagram account I will be uploading channel updates as well as some less structured short form pieces of content. These videos will have little to no editing and will essentially be me talking briefly about various topics, whether these are specific stories that I've seen in the news, general discussions and talking points, or just stuff that I wanted to discuss with you guys and have a conversation about. By the time this video has been uploaded, there should be a couple of posts up already. Now if you're interested in seeing more content by me or keeping up to date with what's going on with the channel, then head over there. I won't be sticking to a strict schedule when it comes to the Instagram account. It will just be uploading whenever I come across a story or want to talk about something that I can't quite go into as much depth about as I would like to on the channel. There will also be a more conversational and chatty atmosphere when it comes to that account, hopefully to encourage people to leave comments and tell me what they think about the things I'm talking about. So if any of that interests you, then head over there. It's persuade_me_plz. You'll find a link in the description below, or you can just look it up on Instagram. It's the same name as I use for my channel. But I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. So if you have anything you want to say about this video, then please leave a comment down below. It lets me see what you guys think about the things I'm saying, it allows me to improve my content where necessary, and it gives us the opportunity to have a discourse, which at the end of the day is the most important thing. Now, sorry for my gruff voice, and as ever, you guys look after yourselves.